Welcome to everybody who is watching the recording. You can go ahead and scroll along to the part where you see my PowerPoint presentation shared. So just go ahead and screw up. We'll see you there. To everyone who's here live, I would love to know where you're coming from. Jenna, I know where you're coming from my neighborhood. Olivia, where are you from? Feel free to chat too. We're going to be using the chat a lot, so let's get used to it. Lizette, Tiffany, where are you guys coming from? Hey, from Toronto, amazing. Toronto's really close to me. I'm in Brooklyn. I've never made it up there though. I have an increasing number of friends who I adore though. So Toronto's doing a great job at growing those.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm coming from San Diego Gas and Electric in
Fabulous.
San Diego, California.
Yeah, hopefully it's sunny and not cold. Great to have you
Yeah, it's
here.
kind of sunny, about 68, 70 degrees now.
Not bad. Yeah. Oh, Tiffany, I am 1000% like jonesing for Broadway right now. Like it's just almost no matter what play you see, or if it's like a style you're used to or whatever, it's like it's the best in the world of a thing, you know? And it's almost anything that's the best in the world of a thing is going to be completely amazing and engaging and immersive. So New York was also a dream of mine, and here we are. Okay, the clock has struck 3. So people are going to gradually let themselves in, but I promised everybody that we are going to dive right in really fast today. I don't do a big marketing wind up or anything like that. I will introduce myself, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we'll talk about getting a 5-figure raise. This is one of my favorite topics to teach. I get really, really amped about it. If I get if I really get on one, I'll try to calm my energy down. But I'm so passionate about this topic, and I am unbelievably excited that you're all here joining me. This is the first time that I've taught this information live outside of my group program, Fearless Femmes, and it's a real treat to be able to share this with you. I consider it our responsibility to level the playing field with some of this information that's going to really make getting a 5-figure, 6-figure, and beyond raise obtainable, accessible to everybody. So here's a quick agenda for what we're going to go through today. I'm going to move super fast, so keep up. You'll do yourself a favor by giving me your undivided attention. I promise. So we'll do a quick intro. We'll then talk about the single biggest mistake that femmes in product make when they negotiate. We'll talk about the real numbers to use as benchmarks. I am straight up leaking this information. I had to reformat it so that it's not identifiable as being from this resource that is given out in secret to people who have access, which is unfair. So I have reconfigured it with the same data. You'll be getting an actual leak from real HR software that gives you the real numbers about what's possible in product in terms of total comp. You'll then get the negotiation script and process broadly that Fearless Femmes use to get 5 figures or 6 or 7-figure raises all the time. We actually had like 8 raises or something in the group this week, or I guess the last 2 weeks. It's really raise season right now. So hopefully this is really well timed for everybody. We'll then go into a live Q&A. So I will ask that we hold questions to the end. If you've got comments or sort of +1s or anything like that, please feel free to drop me an emoji or anything like that in the chat. Actually, I want everyone to fire up the chat right now because there are no such thing as rhetorical questions, and I will be asking a bunch of them. I hate talking at people, so
Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, sure, Lizette.
I think your voice is like a kind of breaking down, so I'm not sure it is me or.
Let's see. Anyone else getting that? Just enter in the chat if my voice is fine or if it's cutting out for folks. All good? Okay, cool. If there is anything like that, that is a great reason to interrupt me, of course. So thank you, Lizette. It sounds like hopefully everyone else is has a clear signal, but maybe we can troubleshoot that. Sorry about that. Okay, wonderful. So I've got my chat here. I will be asking you questions, so please answer them. I've got my awkward silence water bottle that I'll be drinking from while you type. So I'll wait. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Becca. I am the founder of an organization called Fearless Femmes, which is now a community of like 115 femmes, mostly in product, who are on their path to getting promoted to leadership roles without burning out. From there, we use that influence to change the world. It's a really impact-oriented group of people, really strong values around equity, inclusion, diversity, and justice overall. We are on a mission to use our influence to make work culture a more just and equitable experience for everybody. So it's a big reason why I'm here today, sharing all this really valuable information about how to get hella paid. You should listen to me because I have gotten people really tremendous results over the years that I've been working with them. I am a top tier negotiator when it comes to product compensation. A couple results just from the past couple of weeks. Elizabeth got a 70K raise and actually 2 promotions over the course of our work together overall. Shannon made the leap into green tech with a $125,000 raise. Really amazing result, something really impact and values aligned for her. Quinn Lee interrupted this pattern of burnout she'd had and transitioned companies to one with more upward mobility, securing an 80K raise. And this one's an outlier, but I think it's worth mentioning. We don't get, 7-figure raises for people all the time. That would be misleading, but this process works for that too. You can do what Casey did and negotiate from her initial offer of 1% equity in the company she was joining as a VP to 4%. That is now worth $4 million for her. So yay, Casey, crushing it. All right, here's what we will be talking about today. We will be talking about the 5 main ways that femmes leave money on the table. This is called LMOTs, okay? Get it? So there's gonna be 5 LMOTs that we go through that is gonna pinpoint an opportunity for you to really nudge up the total comp that you're getting during a negotiation. And this will apply to opportunities, to LMOTs that occur when we are getting a promotion within a company or getting or transitioning roles and negotiating for a salaried or new company. Everything you're going to learn today is transferable between those 2 situations. So keep that in mind. What we do not have time to talk about today, because they truly deserve an entire workshop on their own, is the systemic bias that exists in our work culture broadly, but especially in tech, that results in when femmes do ask for a raise, they hear no more often, right? It's a huge problem. We're not going to get into the nitty-gritty about it today, but I would be remiss not to at least just mention it. Same goes for the information asymmetry, where people with tremendous amounts of privilege get access to the kind of information that I'm going to leak you here today. I would not be in integrity to share the wholeness of, or just like basically copy paste the resource, because I've been asked not to by these people who have too much privilege. And so that I can keep receiving this information, I'm going to preserve that resource, but I will be leaking as much as I can in the time that we're allotted. And if you have any questions, I'm more than available to go and do some research for you so that you can get the real information about what's possible in terms of product comp. Why you should care. Okay, this is an actual graphic from an amazing book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. This $5,000 raise, that's that little gap that you see between the black line and the yellow line. In year 1 of your career, compounds over time to be worth well over $1 million, right? Now, in practice, of course, we get way more than $5,000 raises every time we negotiate, every time we switch a job. So you can imagine how this line cranks up with every $5,000 unit that you get in terms of increases in your salary. Negotiating is insanely important. You should do it incredibly powerfully and get as much money as you can. Otherwise, some white guy's going to get it. Let's be real. Okay. So my promises to you for this session. Number 1, again, like I said, no rhetorical questions. If I ask one, answer it in the chat. You will get more out of the session if you do. I do have an authentic style. There may be some tough love today. I also swear moderately. You've been warned. Also, I talk really fast. So if you don't catch something, please make a note and we'll get to it in the Q&A, which is hopefully the last 30 minutes of this if I go really fast. Ooh, okay, is the meeting capped off in participants? That's a great question, Manish. Let me check that. This is something that I thought I had enabled, but let me make sure. I really apologize for this delay, everybody. I think this is worth checking on. If you would just bear with me for one moment. Oh, you're on the wrong link. Whew, okay. let's see if I can figure this out. Okay, so it looks like maybe it's not capped. Can someone paste, let's see, I'm going to paste the link from this session that we're in. Apologies, everyone. I'm so sorry. I hate to waste your time like this with technical difficulties, but shit happens, doesn't it? Okay. Invite. And if you all wouldn't mind, I'm gonna, did the email have the wrong link? It sounds like that's what I'm hearing, but the Eventbrite page is correct. Cool, sorry about that. Thanks everyone for collaborating with me on this. Let me just send that out really quick. Ooh, it looks like Eventbrite is kind of, okay, no, it's just really, really slow. Fun times. And I will get that email sent to everybody. All right, so now we are good. Thanks for your patience, everybody. Appreciate you bearing with me here. Okay, back to it. And by the way, if my PowerPoint should be front and center for you as of right now. So do make sure that your settings are configured so that you can see my shared screen. You will be getting a little bit more out of the presentation because I have all these teaching aids. Everyone got my PowerPoint nice and big? Perfect. And if you're just joining, apologies to everyone who got sent to that wrong room. Zoom has a weird thing about integrating with Eventbrite, and sometimes there are gaps. They're changing the permissions constantly. It's a lot to keep up with, but you can get everything that we just covered in the recording. Don't worry. All right, perfect. Thanks, Grace, and sorry about that. Okay, perfect. I just sent an email with the corrected link, so hopefully everyone will get to the right place. So back to the promises. Thanks everyone for bearing with me. No rhetorical questions. I do have an authentic style, and I will give you all the help I can in an hour. So I'm going to go through as much as I possibly can. This is no like gated thing where you have to like start working with me to get the actual value. This is it. This is the value. You're in the right place. However, if you do want to stay to the end, you'll learn how to get more help if you want it. Often applying a lot of these principles is easier said than done. That's why people work with me. And I will be announcing the launch of a free community, which is a huge brand new initiative that I'm super excited to share with you. So that'll all be at the end. So let's get into it. What makes negotiating hard for you? Again, not a rhetorical question. Got my awkward silence water bottle here while I await your chats. Lack of data and transparency, it's a big one. Fear of rejection, absolutely. A relationship with your manager, sometimes those are blockers. Yep. Don't know who's getting promoted and why, imposter syndrome, fear of rejection, seeming greedy. It's a really, really big one that I hear a lot. Worrying about what if they say no, fear, their existing biases and preferential treatment. All of these things basically come down to this. People socialized as women are shamed for asking for what we want, so we don't. Again, as I mentioned, there also is real systemic bias where when we do ask, we hear no. Again, like I mentioned, that is a subject, a workshop all its own. And so what I really want to focus on today is the things that we can do to deprogram some of the socialization that we have incurred as women and as femmes, as people socialize as women, excuse me, who whenever we think about getting what we want, we get absolutely terrified. And pretty much all of the reasons that you guys cited have to do with this. I don't want to make people mad, disappoint others, or make them stop liking me. Like probably 90% of what you guys just said in the chat or some version of this. And this is the number one excuse that I hear when people say that they don't want to negotiate or wonder if they should. Because again, I think you all know intellectually, you absolutely should. Men do, right? And this fear of rejection, the fear of, basically a survival threat, makes our body go into total overdrive and convinces our mind of something that isn't true, such as, I shouldn't negotiate, right? They're not going to like me. I'm going to look like I'm greedy, right? Excuse number two that I hear all the time is they're going to pull the offer if I try to negotiate. This is actually kind of a subcategory of excuse number one, but so that I don't get the question later, it doesn't happen. Period. I'm sure that maybe it's happened in the scope of human history at some point, but in general, I have never seen it happen with anybody that I've worked with, and I negotiate extremely aggressively. It doesn't happen. People don't pull the offer. It doesn't make sense for a zillion reasons that we can get into at the end if you really want, but you could just trust me and just assume that it doesn't happen. I've literally never seen it happen in my career. So here's the single biggest mistake that femmes in product make. And this is part of the rationalizing and part of the hemming and hawing that we do to talk ourselves out of asking for more, is we look on salary websites like 81 Cents or Glassdoor to determine what we should ask for, right? We want to see, which is, a normal thing to do, to reach out for a story of somebody asking for something for a higher salary than we could possibly imagine asking for. And that gives us a little bit of confidence. I get the initiative, I get the idea behind this, and I generally support it. However, the issue with websites like this is a couple things. The highest paid people in product don't submit their salaries to anonymous websites. They don't. Almost none of my clients have, people across the board that I know and associate with. They don't, in part because when they actually put their salary down, they don't believe them. I've actually been accused of lying to people about the numbers that I'm going to share with you today. It provokes a really, really powerful emotional response in people because of all of our socialized baggage around money. So the highest paid people in product generally don't submit their salaries to these anonymous websites. That means that the salaries skew about 30 to 50% lower, depending on the role. So that's your rule of thumb. Also, guys, there's not a market rate for you. This is another big mindset shift that I want to debunk that we'll get into more deeply in a minute. No one is going to do this job at this time the same way that you will, right? There is not a market rate for you. You are not a commodity. And so comparing yourself as though there is a market rate or going rate for product leaders is completely nonsensical when you think about it. I'll get into why in just a second. So here's LMOT number two. LMOT number one, as I mentioned, is that we're socialized to not ask and have this enormous fear response that kind of hijacks our rational brain. And LMOT number two is that the best investment you can make in your career is a community of high achievers who will tell you how much they make. Get the real numbers. You wonder where all these highest paid people are actually getting their numbers from? It's from their community of high achievers. They don't need a website. They don't even go to the website, right? So again, this is where we start to see tiers of privilege start to kind of, in an insular way, reinforce itself and create a bigger salary gap. We have to lean on our community. We have to invest in them if we want to close that gap for ourselves. So everyone, sorry, I will ask you to hold questions to the end just so I can blow through all this stuff really fast because it is kind of dense, but I will reserve as much time as possible for Q&A. So please hold your questions. Awesome. All right. So question for you, do respond to this. What do you estimate, this is sort of proof of concept here. What do you estimate the average cash comp for a VP of product at a startup is? Well, here's some numbers. 250, 350, 250, 150. All right, kind of all over the place. We're getting anywhere between 150 and 350 plus equity, right? Oh, Hannah, great question. What stage? Equity too. What does equity mean? Every single company is going to be wildly different in terms of what a unit of equity means, right? So another reason why negotiating is hard, and another reason why these websites having a single number representing a single role comp for even given a specific company, this shit's complicated. And I'll tell you exactly why. Here's the leak, everyone. This is real VP product salaries plus bonus at startups. And you'll notice that there is an enormous distribution, a curve, between the 10th percentile, the lowest 10% of total cash comp, and the 90th percentile. right? With an assumption that most salaries are probably around the 195. Great question, Grace. I can't divulge the actual name of the software, but it's from Real HR software that is partially crowdsourced, but also is crowdsourced from real data from HR websites that HR people use for recruiting executives. So this is stuff that gets back channeled to me from friends, my network in Silicon Valley, people who are like basically trying to pay as much as they possibly can for talent because they have their priorities straight about hiring. So again, this is information that I wish I could just copy paste the entire resource, but if I want to keep getting this information, I have been asked to stay in integrity and not sharing it. So I'm leaking it to you this way. So I've kind of cherry picked what I thought might be some really useful information for folks. In general, if these are VP numbers, most of this, the comp in this resource is for VP and up. You can discount it by 15-ish% for directors, maybe another 10%, 10 to 15% for ICs. So you can take these numbers and adjust them for level. And you can see here that not only is there a distribution that's worth understanding between the lowest comp and the highest, it also is wildly dependent on the amount of funding raised, right? So this is again for startups who have raised venture capital. So look at these numbers. These are yours. I have leaked them to you now. They're out in the world. But this is about as much as I could take from this resource and not just sit here staring at spreadsheets with you for an hour. This is why a network and a community is imperative, because there are a bunch of factors that go into this. We haven't even gotten into the part where they break it down based on like average equity comp for everybody. It would just be an overwhelming amount of information for me to share here. But it does get shared in the back channels of tech people who have been around in the industry for a long time and who are basically, needing to feel special and keep this information to themselves. So I'm just going to call that what it is. And our efforts today are really to level this playing field to the best of our ability. If you have more questions about this, please ask. Okay, then talking about Meta, Pinterest, Google, all of the FANG companies as they used to be called. Some numbers for you. Currently, as of 2022, IC6 level PMs at Meta are starting as high as 600K annual comp. That is a salary plus bonus plus the stock value, which for public companies is basically liquid and incredibly low risk. It's very different from equity comp in startups. Oops, sorry guys. There we go. If things go well, and depending on how long you've been there, the take home can get up to 1.2 million. I've had a client who, when the stock was really high at Pinterest, had that clocked in at that rate, and even more if you've been there for a long time. Obviously, those the RSUs that are granted to you years ago, and assuming they continue to increase in value, that amount of money can really, really rack up. So the longer you are at a place, the higher your comp is going to be. Another thing, another bit of nuance that's totally lost in any of the salary websites that you are looking at. Also worth noting, some people get paid way less, even at these big companies with infinite cash, because they don't negotiate effectively. So you will get screwed if you don't advocate for yourself. All right, everyone still with me? Give me a heck yeah in the chat. Yeah, heck yeah, all right. Perfect. And I will send this image out to you. I created this image, so this image of the salary distribution. So it is mine intellectual property. So I am at liberty to give it to you. So I will send that to everybody. You don't need to worry about scribbling all those numbers down. Okay. Basically, guys, what I want you to take away from this is that 600K is your new baseline. It's just what's possible for an ICPM at Meta. Obviously, there are a million trade-offs that a person might make to work for a company that doesn't have infinite cash and accept a way lower amount. But I want to just break up with this notion that you can't ask, that no PM could possibly get paid that much. They get paid so much more than you could possibly imagine. And I hope that this workshop today just ratchets up your baseline assumption of what's possible. Okay. Oh yes, Nancy, great question. IC does stand for individual contributor. So this is not a people manager, right? IC6 is a senior PM. it's a great question. Sorry, I'll clarify the terminology here. At bigger companies that have a really advanced or mature product organization, I see 6, 7, I don't know, I see like 4 through 7 is usually the level of seniority, 4 being the least senior, 7 being the most, and then you get promoted to director from there. So I see 6 as like senior, right? But not a people manager, not scaled like they are. We're even talking, even like the amount that they get paid is just completely insane. Okay, so let's move on. Forget everything I just told you about what the market rate is. As I mentioned, there is no market rate for you. And even if you're anchoring in the absolute highest brackets of comp that you've ever heard of in your life, it's still lower than the impact you're going to have at this organization because of your unique skills and abilities, right? We don't anchor on what other people make. We anchor on the scope of your impact. This is LMOT lesson number 3. In a negotiation, as you know, it's this cute little mating dance that we do, right? We have to start high. We have to set expectations and viscerally, hopefully guide our counterparty to like, be like, oh, wow, this person really means business. So we're gonna adjust their baseline to be higher. You want to anchor high. There's a psychological sort of tactic here that is worth knowing about. When you anchor low, everything is going to descend lower from there. If you anchor high, it's still going to descend lower, but you'll be way higher. So we want to set that number, right? What's the number that you're going to be using in this negotiation to leverage your ask? And the answer is the number of dollars you are going to bring into this company or the number of dollars you're going to save them, right? So here's a question for you. You were hired for a reason. Just do your current role, right? You were hired for a reason. What is it? Real question. What was that? Solving problems. Awesome. What problem though? To be an SME. So we're seeing, I think, a pattern here, right? Brianna's getting it, making money. You're here to make the money. Of course you are. They wouldn't invest in you if you weren't. Of course, the other value add that you can bring is reducing costs, equally valid, right? You're there to create value, right? So Hannah, let's get really specific. This is the kind of answer that I'm looking for and the kind of answer I want to push you to have about your own narrative, right? Hannah says, literally, you're a growth PM. So you're here to impact the P&L of the company. You're here to get them more users, which is going to result in X amount of revenue per user, which equals an amount, right? So what's your job? What's it worth? There's a number. Calculate it. Right? This is your task, and we'll get into exactly how to do that in just a minute. Okay, LMOT lesson number 4. This is just general mindset that gets away from this coercive dominance and intimidation vibe that we see in negotiations like on TV, right? It is so gross. Is it not gross? Like, have you ever like walked into a negotiation and had someone try to strong arm you into something? You hate them for a minute, at least, right? It's so gross, and it is rooted in a whole culture of dominance and submission and subjugation. It's like the worst value system on the planet. What if we completely threw out that model and asked, what if this conversation was a collaboration instead of a confrontation and conflict? What if you and this person you're negotiating with, right, were on the same team, right? So here, what do I mean by that? The reason for why this works, right? By the way, I remember being trained and reading about how to negotiate in most of the traditional books and being super grossed out by it. So I stopped doing it with my group, stopped doing it with my clients, started doing this instead. It's way more effective. God, why would that be? Okay, here's why. People take action from emotion, not from thoughts. That means that if you get someone feeling good, feeling like they're on your team, feeling like they're invested in you and the impact that you're going to have and, I don't know, your life, that feels really good. It feels really connected. You're going to get a better result of a negotiation when they're feeling that way, right? Because people take action from emotion, not from thoughts. We are feeling beings fundamentally. Never forget that. Collaboration, curiosity equal feel good. Okay. Dominance, intimidation, coercion equal feel bad. Oops, I said feed there. You know what I mean. Feel bad. Very, very simple, right? And if people are acting from a place of feeling bad, they're not going to really want to advocate or fight for you or give you what you want. It's very basic, primal, subconscious stuff that's going on. So leverage that, right? let's completely flip the script of what we think has to be what we ask. All right, so question for you, no one's in this just to like, you know, steal money and trick them out of paying you more. Like, what's the soul in money for you? Like, what are you asking for? Why get more money? Real question. To be compensated for your work. Yeah, absolutely. What happens when you get compensated? What are you able to do? Security, yes. Enjoy life, have impact, get safety for your family, financial freedom, this is what I'm talking about, right? There's real soul in money. For me and for Fearless Femmes, we're here to like secure a seat at the table at the highest levels of influence and also extend that table, right? Money's going to be a factor in getting that. Absolutely. I think that again, like we are trapped in this existing system. We can also live somehow at the same time in a future one. That's what we're trying to do in Fearless Femmes. There's soul and money here, and you should ask for it, right? All right. So here's how to be collaborative on compensation. Take notes here. This is really important. Step one, ask the recruiter. We're talking about a real human being here, a recruiter, and ideally your hiring manager. Ask everyone that you're talking to in this negotiation about the hopes and dreams of the company. And then you express excitement about the role you'll play in them. This is so much more than a transaction, right? This is about you supporting this company in its mission and its vision. Hell yeah, right? Step two, same goes the other direction. Share your own hopes and dreams about and your excitement about the company playing a role in supporting you. This isn't a requirement. You don't have to share anything about what you're going to use that money for, but I find that in really powerful negotiations, talking about what you want to use the money for in an inspirational and loving and open way, it's a really persuasive tactic. Just saying. Step three, when negotiating, empower the company to be creative to meet you where you want to be. We'll talk about this in exactly what I mean by this in the script that I'm going to share in just a minute. And also remember, this is kind of just a silly mating dance, right? So like, yeah, okay, we have to do that thing where we give a high number and they're gonna negotiate us down. So we want to aim a little higher, blah, blah. This is just a little mating dance, right? You're just kind of going through the motions. Don't take it too seriously, okay? There are certain tactics that to really max out this negotiation, we do have to do because of, I don't know, the ways that the dominance culture and existing work culture has touched this interaction. But, you know, treat it like the silly dance that it is, okay? All right, at the end of the day, this is what I want you to really internalize. You aren't trying to steal anything from anyone or dupe them out of money. That is not what you're doing. That is not you. You do not value any of that. That is not a thing you would do, right? So stop worrying about doing it. This is an old cultural socialized narrative that we gotta just drop off like the baggage it is, right? You are getting compensated for value you're gonna create. You're there to do a job. All right. Also, everyone hates to be intimidated. Make one another feel good. As I like to say to my clients, don't be weird. Don't be weird and gross. Just have a normal human conversation. There's a lot of tactics about, oh, don't give the first number or blah, blah, blah. It's just going to make it weird. Give the first number if it's a natural thing to do, right? And in the script, you'll see why that's so impactful. All right. LMOT lesson number 5, this is perhaps the most important one, and it kind of answers the question of how many times do I counter, right? So cool, you've like gotten it up, you've given your number, you've gotten a counter offer back, you've countered back, right? How many times do you do that? The answer is until you get them to know. The way that you definitely know you're leaving money on the table is if they don't say, I'm sorry, I wish we could make this work, but you're going to have to meet us here. If they're not willing to walk, then you're leaving money on the table. Boy, that's probably a big one, huh? Because imagine as a femme or a person socialized as a woman, pushing somebody that much. What emotions come up for you when you think about that? Like, what does your body do? Guilt, a lot of stories about guilt. Probably some stories, shaking, anxious, stories about safety, right? Stress. This is kicking up some of our deepest survival responses, right? This is actually, you know, for people socialized as women, big objective is don't get murdered, right? That is a thing that we have to think about all the time moving through the world. Huge psychological weight, something we carry in our bodies, right? And so, yes, it is totally normal to feel this way and to have these physiological responses. It is adaptive, actually, to have these responses, but you owe it to yourself to work through them, to get the support that you need to come out the other side and push them, get them to know. You deserve it. All right, everyone's still with me. Those are the 5 lessons, the 5 LMOTs. I literally made up that LMOT term today. I thought it was really funny and cute. I laughed for like 5 minutes. Amazing, I'm hilarious. Everyone's still with me. Give me a $sign if you're still with me. Amazing, yeah. Money, great, soulful money. Okay, ready? Here's how femmes negotiate, as I'm talking about the process that we use in Fearless Femmes. High level, we're gonna go through each of these one at a time. Number 1, calculate your impact. We did a little bit of that just earlier, got your wheels turning. 2, figure out what's really important to you in terms of like how you get paid. Determine your number, right? Like the number that like, okay, maybe you won't share that with them right off the bat, but you'd be really happy if you got it. And number 4, get them to know. We're gonna talk exactly how to do that. So step 1, calculating your impact. This is super, super simple. I don't want you overthinking it. This is something that you should be able to do in about 2 minutes back of napkin, right? You're looking at this role, you've been brought on to grow the team, or you've been brought on to build features that are going to make users pay more money or give them more value so they give you more money, right? Or you're here to reduce costs by making a team more efficient or making data more accessible to users, more accessible to your employees internally, right? All of these things are really, really value add things that you can measure, right? So what you want to do is ballpark the revenue based on the market size. Back of napkin, round numbers, right? We're talking about like order of magnitude estimates here. That's all you need. Ballpark the growth based, the potential growth that you are going to drive in this role based on the market size, right? All things that you can just calculate, kind of like, you know, if there are 10 million people in Chicago and call it 5% of them have baseball hats, then how many Cubs fans do you think there are? Right? Like this is the kind of round numbers, really, really easy stuff. You don't need to overthink it for any of these things. If you are being hired at an organization, you are being expected to drive value or impact on one of these 3 things. If you don't know what it is, you should figure it out. I think it's really important that you understand what you're doing, right? All right, step 2, decide what's important to you. So a couple questions here that you can sort of take away. Number 1 is, and reflect on, I recommend journaling on this. This is something that we do in a structured way in Fearless Femmes all the time. How much risk are you willing to take? How much does the product or the team impress you? There's a ton of reasons to trade off cash or capital for a team that's going to give you an amazing experience or help you grow, right? All these things are knobs and levers that we want to turn that might impact our approach to this negotiation and everything that we ask for. Also, how much influence over company performance will you have? The more seniority you have or the smaller the team, the more equity you might want to take because you have a lot more leverage over that equity, right? If you're kind of a super junior joining a startup and there's a bunch of layers above you, you're just probably not going to have the influence, even if you are an absolute just amazing product leader. You're probably not going to have the influence to change the direction of the entire company yet, right? So you might want to minimize for equity. Also, when do you need the money? If you're at a startup and you're betting on some equity, you better not count on any amount of money coming at you for at least 10 years in most situations. So if you're looking to put a down payment on a house or invest in your friend's company or put away money for your kid's college fund, and holding out for equity probably isn't the right thing to optimize for, right? All deeply personal questions that determine what you actually want. Step 3 is determine your number. This is really simple. How much do you want to make? Ask for 30% more than that. That's going to be your opening bid. Okay, this is a good rule of thumb because again, in this little dance, they're gonna negotiate you down. It is 100% a foregone conclusion, so let's anticipate it, right? Number 4, step 4, get them to know. So this again is a very specific line that they are going to give you because again, they're not going to pull the offer. They've made it this far. They are so close to solving the biggest problem they have, which is hiring. They just need to get you across the finish line. And they are probably heartbroken at the prospect that you would walk, that they have pulled every stop out and they still couldn't get you to yes. They are probably crying inside right now. And so they're going to say, we're so sorry. We really want to make this work, but we're going to have to go with another candidate. And that's when you say, great, I'm in. Okay. I know, it's crazy. My rule of thumb is that if this process doesn't make you want to poop your pants, you aren't negotiating hard enough. This is a real line that I have. So seriously, it should make your guts want to drop. Straight up. Like this is social baggage that's coming up. This is like gendered social expectations. This is like a sense of being rejected or survival or being not liked. I mean, this is all terrifying stuff. It should push your boundaries, right? But it is worth it. Your goals are worth it. And the fact that you would leave money on the table because of a bunch of socialized bullshit is, I think, really sad. So don't do it. Okay. So here's the script. We're going to go through this really, really fast. How are we doing on time here? Oh, I can't even see, whatever. Okay. The Fearless Femmes negotiation script is a couple of the 3 components. The estimated impact you'll have that you've calculated now, your ask in light of that impact, right? Again, then we say anchor high, anchor on the impact you're going to have, and then ask, how can you meet me there? So it doesn't matter if you've already gotten an offer, it doesn't matter if you've already given a number, you're still going to at some point use this script. And here is what it looks like for a real live femme who gave me the thumbs up to actually use this as an example. I've anonymized the company. I'm thrilled at the opportunity to join this company and lead this strategy and move the needle towards helping 1 million people in the next 10 years. We're seeing this math, this back of napkin ballpark math, right? I'm confident that in my capacity as a leader, we can bring in 2.5 million people over the next 5 years, which I anticipate would lead to at least 250 million in revenue. This is based on numbers that she asked about and got from her hiring manager, right? After researching the size of the opportunity, blah, 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 my goal for this move in my career is bringing in 210K. Cash is more important to me right now because I'm dreaming about investing and in giving back to the education community by coaching teachers into translating their skills to open new career trajectories. She did that, by the way. She launched her own group program as part of her achievement within Fearless Femmes. How can you meet me there? So you're going to make this yours, right? This was hers. She shared her reasons for why she was optimizing for cash. You don't have to, but it's kind of sweet, right? Kind of like radically collaborative, almost vulnerable, in a way that is gonna elicit the emotions that you want to be eliciting from this counterparty, okay? All right, so a quick note on equity before we get into Q&A. I am not a financial advisor, this is not financial advice, but what I will say is that the most conservative thing you can do is value startup equity at 0. The moment you value it at anything, your risk goes through the roof. Obviously, it's dependent on a bunch of other factors about exactly how much risk, but it's a lot compared to valuing at 0, even if you value it a little, okay? Exercising options is another really important thing to think about in the wholeness of your comp package. A lot of times at startups, they'll be like, oh, and you're gonna get, you know, the $400,000 worth of equity. They don't calculate what it's gonna cost you to exercise to own those shares. Right? So again, this is a whole workshop unto itself here, but you are going to have to pay money, often well into the 5 figures, sometimes higher. I had to pay 14 grand to exercise my shares at Practice Fusion. You know how much they ended up being worth? Boom. So really all of my comp should have had $14,000 deducted from it. And here they were selling me on the value of it. It's really, really risky. Just something to keep in mind. Number 3, after taxes and other costs. This is just something to keep in mind, right? Everyone's different, everyone's goals are different, and everyone's situation's different. But after taxes and other costs, equity almost never nets a life-changing amount of money, right? So it's just something to keep in mind. Again, there's a zillion other reasons why you might want to optimize for equity, but don't be glamored by the rhetoric that a lot of people will give you about the value of startup equity. It's actually pretty expensive and an incredible, like possibly the highest risk asset out there for people in this room. Okay, that's it. That is all of the talking at you that I'm going to do today. We're going to get into Q&A. But at the very beginning, I did tell you that I would tell you how to get more help if you needed it. I give away all of these tactics for free, in part to level the playing field for everybody and democratize this information a little bit, but also because like, it's just so much easier said than done. The reason why people work with me is because this full body freak out that everyone, almost everyone experiences is something that you can 100% make progress on. And I've done this with most of my clients, and I've helped all of them through, or many of them through negotiations. All of them have been, I've handheld them through this process, and they have really upped their tolerance for this discomfort. And that goes, I mean, it spreads into every other aspect of your life. You will never be the same after you negotiate this way. It is insanely powerful. And like I said, Fearless Femmes, we're on a mission to promote women to leadership roles in tech within 6 months. All this stuff, all these results happen within 6 months, and get them hella paid. And then of course, we're gonna use that influence to change work culture. This is super, super important. Of course, if I just got you a huge raise, like, you know, 50K is our average, I wouldn't really count that as a win if I didn't get you all of this other intangible stuff. So we work our way to the tactics about a successful job hunt, getting promoted and getting a raise by talking about the human body, about the physiological and emotional underpinnings of success. And if that is something that you need help with, well, you should talk to me. I also am going to be launching a free community where we can all, again, in the spirit of democratizing some of this information, get together on Discord. So this is a new-ish app that's like sort of a Slack clone a little bit, but it's really cool. It's really focused on protecting privacy. So you can have screen names. You can basically be as anonymous as you want to really get into the nitty-gritty of what's present for you and what you're struggling with in your career. I will be there moderating it and giving free coaching there. So pretty valuable stuff. All right, I want to hear your questions. Go ahead and type them in and fire them off. And I will get to them as much as I can. I'll get to as many as I can in the next 25 minutes. And let me pull up the Discord link while you guys type in your questions. Okay. Let's start with Phil says, awesome. So how does this advice change if the company is transparent about their salary ranges? So should you accept what they're offering given their transparency, or is there still room to negotiate? So I'm very pro transparency. I think that that's a really awesome thing that companies are doing to directly put their money where their mouth is about salary and equity, right? And again, salary equity is social justice. It's an incredibly important thing to be doing. So is there still room to negotiate? Yeah, you should be top of band. You should. You know, you can negotiate past top of band, by the way. That is an arbitrary thing that they use as an excuse to cap what they'll say yes to you for. You have all the leverage. Tell them to go break the band. I do it all the time, right? Sometimes it's a lot of social capital for them to go and like beg for authorization to break band, but we do it. So, you know, do with that what you will. So yeah, I wouldn't just accept it, but also I think that you can be a lot more confident that you are being paid equitably. And I think that's really awesome. So still negotiate, make sure you're top of band, because look at all the value you're going to be driving, et cetera. Make this case and really push for it. Because again, every $5,000 early in your career raises, it compounds to so much over your life. All right, advice specific to negotiating a raise for a current role. Great question. So would you define the scope of the role first or talk comp first? Always talk scope first, because that is going to allow you to come up with this number quantifying the impact that you're going to bring, right? And please don't accept more scope without a pay bump. Okay, titles, I don't know, whatever, like that's different. That can differ depending on the case. You should absolutely be getting paid for an increase in scope. And it's going to allow you to structure the conversation the same. So really, this is very transferable between the two situations of getting a new job and getting a promotion internally. Roxana, do these tactics only work when moving to a new company? Nope. So yeah, so you should be, again, defining the deliverables. I actually have a list on my blog, the 7 steps to getting promoted that we use in Fearless Femmes. It starts with developing allies and really having someone who's going to help champion you, ideally your manager, who you are going to be making it very easy to advocate for you, right? So the way that you do that is through the same steps that we talked about today, which is quantifying your impact. They'll be able to go to the mat for you and advocate for a raise. Okay, we've got an offer on the table right now to move from contractor to full-time. received an offer based on the contractor hourly rate. Is there room to negotiate? Absolutely. So A, always negotiate. Because again, like this is the meeting ritual. This is a little dance, right? Like they're gonna lowball you because the dance move that you're supposed to do is negotiate them up, right? So like, yeah, don't take it personally. It's just a dance. So yes, negotiate always. Also, the rule of thumb for contractors, this is my personal experience. I know this with total certainty because I did it for many years. Your hourly rate should be about the total salary that you want divided by 1,000. So what that means is if you want to be if you think that like a 200K salary is solid as a full-time in-house employee, then you should be charging $200 an hour for your rate, your hourly rate. What that does is accounts for all of the lead gen you have to do as a contractor that's not that doesn't actually involve doing product work. You have to be able to maintain a portfolio and like a story that is really actually kind of challenging to sell compared to in-house company. And most importantly, you're missing all of the benefits, all of the health insurance, all of the, like there's some tax breaks, I think also, this depending on the case, for some people to be in-house, a zillion things that add up. It's never just about your hourly rate as an employee. Cool. So how can I get more of my network to share the ranges internally at a company? Oh, it's hard. Like, again, I don't know, Hannah, you can't force people. Again, this is a consent-based thing, right? I have this immense amount of data because I'm in the circle of trust, right? I literally will never, it is completely against my entire job. I will be out of a career. My career will be over if I break the trust or name names or do something that is really personally violating trust. So people tell me, right? Again, it's like, it's part of, I think, what I'll call my privilege package, I guess. That, which includes, of course, access to some of the highest paid people in Silicon Valley and New York. So how to get people to share? I mean, ask, right? Share yours, like leaders go first. That's kind of the deal. And I recommend, sorry, I'll pin myself here. And I just recommend that everyone try their best to ask. I think that people should talk about it more, and we can try normalizing that. It doesn't mean that we're going to get great answers out of every single person, but we can try. And if it helps, if it makes people feel better to be anonymous, you can assure them of that. Beautiful. Okay, let's see. Next question. Oh, did we cover negotiation with Fang? Kinda. Everything's the same. They just have different. There's literally, you're going to use these exact tactics in every situation. So that's why I drilled them down this way. What you missed in the recording is information about what your baselines should be. So how, and I've seen your individual contributor product leader at Fang is starting around 600K total comp right now. So that should be your baseline. All right, suggestions for negotiating salary from a different department when you're at a higher level, but switching into product as a lower level PM. Can you leverage that your knowledge and expertise will help in the PM world? Absolutely. So the cool thing about product, and this is one of the things that I really like about negotiating in this space, is that, oh my God, like every experience we've had in our past can be like packaged without stretching that much into a story, a narrative about why it's going to make us a great product leader, right? And so this is really just a little bit of a narrative challenge for you. Like think about something, a small thing that you did well today at work. How did you learn how to do that? I mean, maybe it wasn't anything to do with maybe your kids, like, I don't know, you like learned how to manage your kids better and like are taking that learning into PM. You can work that into your story, make it really uniquely yours. I do think that it is typical for, again, this is just because of how levels work. Like, yeah, a lower level, a more junior PM is going to drive more impact because experience is worth something, right? They're probably going to drive less impact than somebody at a really senior level. So as a newer PM, you will have less experience as a PM. You would expect to get paid less. But I think that you should, I think there's always a case to be made about what you're currently making in that director role. Can't hurt to ask, right? It's like, you can say like, yeah, look, I got putting my kids through school and I've got a bunch of other reasons why it's really important for me to maintain the salary. I could go somewhere else and get a higher salary. So maybe let's consider meeting, like matching right now. Maybe they'll say no, maybe they'll say yes. How about that? Okay. How do you convince them to break band? I've got a lot of really good stories about this. I'll come back to it in a minute if we have time, because it's very much, I don't know that I have a rule about like how to do it, but it's going to be in your own style, right? That's sort of the rules. I'll come back to that in a sec. So in the case where you've already accepted more scope with no pay, we just tackled this actually this week in Fearless Femmes and had an amazing result. Reopen that conversation. Like, even better, go get another offer for a similar scope and show it to them and say that you'd love to stay. You'd much prefer to stay, but you really do need that pay bump and promotion for the scope that you've been doing and now have demonstrated success at. Even you have even more leverage. It's never too late. All right. How do you negotiate a salary when getting promoted internally to a more advanced job title? In the last promotion, I got an email with a newly decided salary, and it didn't feel like there was space. Yeah, they did that on purpose. They're intimidating you. It's the old way of doing things, right? So think about it. I mean, think about like what we're trained to do. There's sort of like this hyper masculine, like, oh yeah, if you just say something really confidently, then everyone will believe you. It's like, well, it's kind of true. So especially when we're socialized to be permissive, right, and appease others, we couldn't imagine, how dare we even think about shaking the boat, right, or rocking the boat. There's always a negotiation. You can say, great, thanks for this offer. My counter is this, right? Same process. Copy paste this process, y'all. There is just very little variation in what you'll need to do for pretty much every situation where you're negotiating. Awesome. Let's see. Yeah, so also negotiate ahead of it. Sorry, I'm seeing some questions or some suggestions for Kavya about negotiating ahead of time. I think, yeah, yes, do that, but also it's never too late. So there is room for negotiation. You might have to make it for yourself. That's part of advocating for yourself. All right, so let's see. How would you respond to annual comp if they say you're already at the top of pay grade? Ask them what the top of the band is. Just ask around, and if you have any trusted colleagues or anything, you can ask them how much they get paid. Really, really, like, again, you're building community, right? If you invested in building trust with these people, you're going to be able to get the answer to this question. And worst case, you can just ask, and you can let them know that you want top of band and explain why using your story of impact. All right. Do you ever feel as though negotiating hard during a promotion or role change will result in a bad taste from leadership and prevent you from getting raises that are warranted in the future? There is no such thing as a zero risk life. I'm sure that this has happened where someone pushing has resulted in a bad taste in your mouth. I'm not making any guarantees that that you are going to be completely safe if you push boundaries. Right? This is part of advocating for ourselves. Like we're risking making other people uncomfortable. I know, crazy, right? People seem to be okay making us feel uncomfortable all the time, but God forbid we ever do it, right? So yeah, I think that it's rare. I think that we've been socialized to be hyper vigilant about leaving a bad taste in people's mouths. It tends to happen less often than you think, especially if you come at this negotiation from a collaborative lens. Like part of the radical collaboration approach really de-risks this circumstance where they're like, oh God, I feel like I got, my boundaries got pushed here. And I didn't really like how that went down. I have had a client who did this, did everything right, was super collaborative. And I don't know, because of her boss's baggage, like, yeah, she did. It was years later, but she found out that one of the reasons why getting raises after that was so hard was because the boss had felt like she conceded so much in the beginning, which is just that, that's emotional baggage for the boss. You're going to run into that. But getting a lot of money sooner is way better than getting it later for all the compounding reasons that we talked about. So I think it's a risk worth taking. And again, I can't even emphasize this enough. It's going to happen like 0.01% of the time. Like the likelihood of you putting a bad taste in someone's mouth, it just doesn't happen that much. I've seen it once in my entire career. So there you go. Okay. How do you bring up compensation talk? And when is it time to ask? Now, today is the answer. Today is when you are going to go to your boss with a list of deliverables that would warrant a raise and ask them if they agree. That's what you're going to do. That's how you're going to kick off that conversation. Okay. Oh my God, did I get to all of the questions with 3 minutes? That was amazing. I could not have planned that better. Thanks everyone for all of your questions. Anything else that, great. Well, we mentioned if you don't really feel comfortable doing that, you don't have to do anything you're not comfortable doing. So this is sort of, I think, the asterisk to all of the stuff that I'm sharing with you. I think that it's worth pushing your own boundaries. Oh yeah, and breaking band, I'll talk to that in a sec. I think it's worth pushing your own boundaries. Don't do it more than you want to. If it feels gross, you don't have to. But if you think that there's something that you're not doing because of fear, I think it's worth pushing on that a little bit, right? So about breaking band. So I'll talk to that last. And if you guys want to email me with questions, feel free. So the best story that I have about this is it was a male engineer, because of course it is, who is very experienced, very, very talented. He went through 3 rounds of counter back and forth with the counterparty. And each time he responded with, "This is very disappointing." He is like the most grumpy engineer you've ever met. It was like so perfectly on brand for him to say something like that. And of course he got away with it. They came back, top of band. "I'm so sorry, this is top of band." He goes, "This is incredibly disappointing." And they went and broke band for him. Again, he's very, very senior engineer, ton of leverage, right? So, and you know, but I think that people should push on this more than they think they can. Because again, when you come at it from a really collaborative place, like people want an opportunity to support you in your dreams, right? And if this is going to be the difference between you taking a job or not, like if you, for example, like a great use case for this, right? I'm not just saying that you should just squeeze every dollar and have them break band just because you think you can and you want to flex. Like again, there's social capital involved. Like that is a real thing that's hard to give just blanket advice on. But in a circumstance such as you have a role that is getting paid higher than the top of the band at another company that you prefer working for, that is a really, really great time to use that extra offer as leverage to have them break band. Again, super collaborative. You just want to work there, but they're making it really hard. Could they make it easy? Right? That's the ask. All right, we're at 4 minutes. I'll stay and answer these extra little questions and keep it recording if you've got to run, obviously. Have an amazing rest of your week. I hope this is really helpful. I want to hear all your feedback. And of course, if you have questions, just reach out. And I will email everyone with the link to the Discord community where we can talk, about all this stuff on a continuing basis, hopefully, and be really, really helpful and lift as we rise, if you will. All right, let's see, a couple more questions. How to respond when people ask why you didn't stay at companies long. I just don't put it on your resume. Easy. Should you share the pay number expectation while talking to HR for a new job? I think so. Like, again, like, don't be weird, right? Like, they're trying to help you. They're there to help you, and you're there to help them in this conversation to, as expediently as possible, make sure that there's set expectations. Again, I do think that you should, because of the little dance ritual, you can share your number if they're asking for it, but bump it up by 30% so that when you get negotiated down, you still get your number. How about that? All right. Sorry, yes, so then I will get that. I'll email the Discord community thing because I am having trouble. Something's wrong with my browser right now. Filza asks how much of that 600K is base. It's usually 250. Great question. This is another thing that's part of the spreadsheet that I couldn't possibly have time to like walk everyone through because that would be super boring. But the answer to that question is that usually for senior individual contributors at FANG, base is around 225, 250, and the rest of it is incentive. So the rest of it is very liquid, low risk stock. Oh, and bonus, which is for a meets all expectation is 20%. Sorry, I'm just blanking on the number, but I've got it. It's around 20% for just a meets all. It's crazy. It's more money than anyone needs, but it's possible, okay, if you want it. Beautiful. Any other questions I am missing? Just Brianna, about the about not staying at companies long, just now that we're done with the money questions, a little more on that. You can let everyone know, or let people know that you were so successful in your career that you were able to take a break from being serious at a company, and so that you can spend time with your family and recharging. And now you're super excited to come back from your gap. It's a total power move. Like, why would we ever hide that? Okay. Awesome. All right, everybody, use it. I'll send you I don't know if I can send you. I'll send you a PDF of the slides so that you've got that. So that you've got that resource and you've got the the sort of the boring spreadsheety information. But I'll also send a recording so that you can come back and get my color commentary on all this stuff as well. I hope this was helpful. I hope you get paid so much more because you spent an hour with me today. That is the kind of life-changing shit that I am here for. I hope I wouldn't waste an hour of your time if it weren't. And I will see everyone soon, hopefully in Discord, and here for you if you need to reach out or need support. All right, bye everybody.